All right, everybody, welcome to NorCal Sports Network. And this is the same hat that Brock Purdy's dad wears. Chat loves it when Marty Lurie comes on.
Anytime you lose a game this time of year, when you can't go backwards, it's a problem.
All right, everybody, welcome on in NorCal Sports Network. As promised, Sunday night with Ned Colletti. And we're going to talk about Major League Baseball free agency is here. It's alive. There's rumors out there. We'll see if we can get some picks. Who knows? It's all a crapshoot, I guess, for most people. I think it is for all the writers. I think we're all guessing, but we'll see how this goes. And welcome on in, Ned. How was your weekend, Turkey weekend?
Good. Everything's good. I was up in San Jose working with the Sharks, and big weekend there. Won 2 games in the NHL and 2 games in the AHL. Things are turning around and looking good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. By the way, before we get really rolling, let's give a shout out to our sponsor of the show. That would be Chapman Law Group. If I can find them in here, I can put their phone number up. There we go. Chapman Law Group in Marin. Give them a call, 415-613-9483. Let them know NorCal Sports Network sent you. And, any legal needs you might have, maybe you're not in trouble with the law. Maybe you just need a living trust. Give them a call. All right. Okay. As always, we love if you like and subscribe to this show. Ned, we have added over 700 subs in the last 28 days.
That is excellent.
Yeah,
that is excellent. It
is growing. Tonight we may hit 3,500, and tomorrow night we expect to definitely by tomorrow night be at 3,500. So stay tuned to this channel because we'll be back on tomorrow night at 8:00 live, and we'll have some tickets to give away, some San Francisco Giants tickets.
Good for you.
To an early ball game. So early in the season. So we'll be giving away more tickets like that. And who knows, if you Dodger fans out there, maybe we'll get some Dodger tickets as well if we can get our hands on some.
Good luck.
So, Ned, the free agency, read today something about Juan Soto. Who put the article out? Somebody big time. One of the big writers said that he could even make a decision soon because he's narrowing it down. When it gets narrowed down to 3 or 4, does that push the price up a little bit more frantic generally, or is it just how does that work?
I think everybody kind of knows what they're willing to do, and they're probably all holding a little bit back, knowing it's going to take more than they've offered. But I would be surprised if people aren't at least 90-95% to where they're going to be.
Okay.
And you may get 2 at the end that can kind of. I mean, you got the New York teams. If they're both in it at the end, they're going to continue to ratchet up a bit. But I think most people are probably 90% to where they're going to be, maybe even 95%.
Yeah.
But they know.
Juan
Soto knows where he's going, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah,
do you have any?
But you can't say, well, until you're ready to do a deal, you got to continue to make sure you got a lot of people interested.
Right. What do you think? I mean, do you have any? Idea in your mind a gut check where you think it could be?
Oh, I have no idea. But if you got the 2 New York teams involved, it'll grab a headline or 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see it coming into the winter meetings where they're both going back and forth, and then it's like,
well, neither team wants to lose out.
Right.
But you get to a point that maybe losing out isn't the worst thing either. If you're up in the 500, 600 range, think how many players you could sign for that, And Lou, you're right. You're right. Hottest team in the Bay Area right now. Amen. But, you can spread that money out pretty well. So even in quote losing and not signing a player, if your ownership is willing to commit that much and continue to commit that much once Juan's off the board, you got a lot of things you can fix.
Yeah.
I mean, would you rather have 3 really good players or 1 superstar?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I would go with the 3 because I think baseball is proven, the Angels proved that they couldn't win with Trout and Ohtani.
No. You
So,
need a team of players.
right.
So however that is, and maybe you already have a team of players and you're just adding him to the group, or maybe you're trying to make a statement by adding him. But you've also got to have other players to support it. This is not a 1 or 2 person sport. In the
Correct.
NBA, if you got 2 great players, you can win yourself a lot of games. You play defense and you got 2 great players. This sport isn't built like that.
Right. Yeah.
Must have balance. Must have balance. We always talk about that, Dan.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and that's why the Dodgers are, probably going to enter the season as the overwhelming favorites with, 7 solid pitchers. They'll be able to do a 6-man rotation, and they haven't even got Sasaki yet, which is a strong possibility after January 15th. And then they've got the lineup, so they're probably. I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers feel like they're not going to end up with Soto, they sign Teoscar quickly. I would think, they saw how much he meant to the team last year, adding another explosive bat a little further down the order. Where did he bat mostly? Around 5th in the order?
Yeah.
5th or 6th?
Yeah, he was, sometimes 4th, but really 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Great addition. 1-year deal, played great. Everybody loves him, whether they're in the clubhouse or whether they're in the seats. Was that type of player. I think anybody that's a position player, if Soto's going to sign between now and Christmas, if they wait, their market is going to increase.
Oh.
Because right now there's teams that a fallback to them is Teo. And there's probably 5 or 6 other position players that are in that fallback position.
Right.
So once he signs or once teams get an indication, if they're in it and they get a call from Scott that says, we're down to 2 teams and thank you, but you're not one of them. Suddenly that market for those other players is going to go up.
Wow.
That will elevate everybody's ask right now. So, some of the quietness, if you want, the Dodgers aren't quiet, but, some of the other teams that are quiet doesn't mean that they're not working. It just means that they're waiting. And they're going to wait to see where it goes. Because I think that, his market couldn't be higher. He's got a little age to him, but he's not a gold glove player, although he made a great play in the series.
Yeah.
The throw at the plate. But just his personality and his knack for getting big hits, they don't win without him. We can talk. Shohei, tremendous. Mookie, phenomenal. Freddie Freeman came back from off the field, stuff that was really, a tough thing, and then his injuries. But Teo's also a huge part of that team. He stretches that lineup out. Other teams are watching too, and they see what he's done. They see what he did before he got to LA. But he really had a great season.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he really did. And I know he loved being with the Dodgers, and I'm sure he wants to come back. But again, money can change things.
And Teo's a perfect example, guys, of what we talked about when he was with Toronto. He was a middle of the order guy. He had a lot more pressure to produce. But when you're in a loaded lineup like the Dodgers, like Ned was alluding to, and you have balance, and you could hit 6th or 7th, You know, it's funny how you automatically play better because there's not enough. There's not so much pressure on you to hit 30 homers and
That's a
drive in
great
100
point.
runs.
That's a great point, Carlos.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the I think their huge strengths. They don't depend on one player.
Right.
They have so many players that the pressure. I mean, there's always pressure to produce, but you watch how their at bats go and how they play. They don't have the same pressure as a team with 2 or 3 hitters. You know, the bottom of their order, I think, was different than everybody else's. As you look at the Padres and the Mets and the Yankees, the 3 teams they beat to win the World Series, the Dodgers didn't have what you would call star players at the bottom of their lineup, but so clutch. And Kike Hernandez. I mean, who as a bottom of the order hitter is more clutch than this player?
I was just going to bring him up. Yeah, or not Kiki, but how about I was thinking the other one, Tommy Edmonds. Look how he came through.
The perfect Dodger.
Yeah,
the perfect.
Dodger. How he really
plays.
is. I think they signed him to a 5-year deal the other day, and I thought to myself, he's replacing Chris Taylor, isn't he? He's basically
Chris is still signed for another year.
Yeah, but he's moving on after this year most likely. So they just keep it going.
Yeah, they just keep it going. You got a guy that can play in the middle of the diamond and play really Gold Glove defense in any of the spots.
Right,
Switch hitter, a little bit down, left-handed hitting, but really when they acquired him, and you watch him play a little bit when they're in the Midwest or on the East Coast, and you're sitting on the West Coast. But as you get to know him and watch how he plays the game, he's like the perfect Dodger. He plays hard. He doesn't take anything for granted. I thought it was a great acquisition and another great move by Andrew Friedman. And then you see what he did when the lights were the hottest.
Right. And for the Giants fans out there, this is my vision for the Giants with Tyler Fitzgerald. I think Tyler Fitzgerald is a guy that is got speed. He can play all over the diamond. And I think having a guy like that, he doesn't really have a set position. I think he's best suited, moved around the diamond and giving guys a day off here and there during the week. And he gets to play 5 days a week, but at different positions versus sticking him at second or short, which I don't think he's like a super great infielder. I think Casey Schmidt is a better fielding infielder at second base with a stronger arm. So I think you utilize Tyler Fitzgerald the way the Dodgers did with Chris Taylor in his prime. Chris Taylor was playing shortstop. He was playing second. He'd play the outfield, all 3 positions. He'd move around, but he was always in the lineup. But he was rarely at the same place unless there was an injury that he had to fill in for a period of time.
Yep.
And those guys are important. And I really do think Tyler Fitzgerald could fulfill that role because he's got some pop, he's got speed, and he's very athletic. So utilize that, move him around. Ned, go ahead, Bose.
I'm sorry. I agree with you completely about Tyler and moving him around, but I'll just push back a little bit on this and ask both of your opinions on it. Is for a younger player, as opposed to a veteran, is having one set defensive position a little bit more important from a mental point of view? Because, we all play the game and we understand that sometimes young players, they take their mental and their defensive responsibilities to the plate with them. So for a young guy like Fitzgerald, for any young guy, I guess it depends on the personality. Some want to be at one position and stick with it and master it, and others are flexible enough. I think the game has evolved where I think you have to be able to play 2, 3, or 4 positions. Whereas maybe in the past, it's like, no, stick me at shortstop and leave me there. So is that fair to assess it like that?
You're right on. I mean, for years, players would say, I'm not comfortable some other place.
Right.
So hit me in a certain spot, play me defensively in a certain spot. But as you just said, Carlos, the game's evolved where versatility is huge. And so if all you do is you play second base, okay? but you have an all-star ahead of you. Are you going to sit in the minor leagues or want to be traded off a good team? Or do you want to play short? Do you want to play center? Do you want to play left? Chris Taylor, when he first came over from Seattle, and he was a player that I had tried to acquire before he ended up being traded. The way he made the team, as I recall, was exactly this, being versatile.
Yeah.
In the spring training, he ended up making a team. He played all over. And nobody knew he could play all over, but he took it on. And so instead of one spot, some people look at it as the one spot is any spot. I'm prepared to play anywhere. I just want to play.
Right.
And that increases their value tremendously.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. We had Casey Schmidt on a few weeks ago with the Giants, and he came up a third baseman. He's a Gold Glove third baseman in the minor leagues. When he was drafted, he was compared to Matt Chapman as the next Matt Chapman in the field. And, with the Giants signing Chapman to 6 years, they pretty much blocked him. And so he's down. In fact, he'll be working out tomorrow in Arizona with Chapman, and he'll be working a lot at second base and shortstop. And when we asked him about this same question, does that help you to know if you're playing your natural position? He says it does help, but he says at this point, I just want to play. I don't care where I play.
Yeah,
exactly.
Put me in left field. Just let me play.
Exactly.
He got so frustrated last year of going up and down from Sacramento, up and down. It's like I think he would rather, he'd probably catch if he could, just doesn't want to be in the minor leagues, wants to play and wants consistent at bats. So I sure hope, the new regime lets guys, that have the talent play. I mean, that's one of the things that I've always loved about the way the Dodgers have run their organization is they do put the best guys out there regardless of position. They'll figure it out. They'll figure out the position, and so Ned, some other questions regarding, before we get into some of the questions about the Dodgers, more specifically on the free agency, tomorrow's December 1st. The winter meetings are a week from tomorrow or today, December 8th. They start next Sunday night and they go through Wednesday or Thursday into the week. And give us an idea what it's like at the winter meetings. Years past, when I was growing up, it seemed like a lot of trades got done during winter meetings. Is it more of just a get together where people are just, because it doesn't seem like a ton gets done recently, the last few years?
Well, things come in stages. And, if you're chasing a good player that's going to help you either on the mound or as a position player, you're going to wait till that player's off the board before you're going to go do anything else. The winter meetings are really a big convention, but the primary people at the winter meetings, the general managers, rarely leave their suite. You got media everywhere. So they just kind of stay sequestered, and their scouts work the room, the lobby, and come back with information. You have meetings 3 or 4 times a day, and you meet with agents. And, it's kind of a let's wait and see. And more GMs, this is a generality, it's easier to say no than to say yes. So to get somebody to actually make a move at the winter meetings, it's hard to get somebody else to get involved and to do it. And so you have far less action. Another part of the winter meetings that has changed a lot and one of the reasons it's changed a lot is that there used to be a trading deadline attached to the winter meetings. You got to go back a ways for this. There used to be a trading deadline. So when you think about, and I work in the NHL now for the last handful of years, July 1st, they're signing for free agents. There's a flurry of activity for 2 or 3 days, and then things get quiet. But they captivate. They take over for any sport. The same thing in the other sports. baseball doesn't have a moment in time where the free agent situations can crescendo. They just don't. Guys get signed in spring training. They could sign within a couple days of the World Series, or they can sign on Valentine's Day or March 1st.
Right.
Look where what day Montgomery signed, or Chapman signed, or Snell signed last year.
Right.
So there's no crossroad decision you've got to make because you're not going to be able to make it later.
Do you prefer, as a general manager, to have a deadline?
Well, that's when you get things done. I mean, I was always of the aggressive mindset. We always had good teams from like the 97 Giants all the way through the end of my Dodger run as a GM. But we had teams that could compete. I think I had maybe 2 teams in my last 25 years that weren't 500 teams. You're over 500 every year. You're in it every year. So you're always constantly trying to improve it, whether it's the last player on the roster or somebody in your system, or somebody's going to play every day or pitch every 5th day or close for you. So, the mentality was always, let's see what we can do. Let's try and do something. But you find, you're not in the majority there. There's not many people that share that thought process, and people can wait. I just had this conversation the other day with a great baseball veteran and scout. If there was a deadline for free agency, if you had to sign your free agents by the Wednesday, if the winter meetings start on Sunday night, people start arriving, and it goes till Thursday in the Rule 5 draft or something like that. What if you had a midnight deadline on Wednesday for all your trades and your free agent signings over a certain number? Baseball would rule the sports world.
Oh, amen. I've been saying this for the last 3 years, Ned.
People would be glued to the internet. What are they doing? What are they doing? You could sign a player after, but it'd be a lot less money after that. So teams would be waiting to make the deal, but they know that if they wanted somebody, they had to do it. There used to be a deadline. I think it was midnight on one of the nights during the winter meetings.
Yes.
And deals got done because people had to do it. And then you weren't allowed to make a deal almost until the season beat. So your team was your team.
Yes.
But baseball would rule the sports world.
Absolutely.
I don't care what's going on in the NBA or the NFL or any other place.
Right. Baseball is embedded in America. And I remember as a kid, I think it was sometime in the mid 70s. I grew up being a Giants fan, and Bobby Bonds was my favorite player. And I was crushed to learn that he got traded in the winter meetings for Bobby Mercer. But it was a blockbuster deal. They were both, big time outfielders, Yankees, Bobby Mercer. And then, Bobby Mercer was supposed to be the next Mickey Mantle coming up with the Yankees.
Yep.
And then he gets traded for Bobby Bonds, Barry's dad, for the younger people out there. But that was a pretty significant trade. Gary Carter in '84 was traded to the Mets during the winter meetings. Ricky landed in '84 as well. Ricky Henderson went to the Bronx. Just a lot of trades.
The deadline may have been, and I started in 1982, and I think it was around then.
Yeah,
still had it. Because I can remember my first winter meetings. It was like furious. It was like people running all over the place trying to make deals and having conversations. Wow. It was so full of life. The great Bill Veeck and Roland Heeman, when Bill Veeck owned the White Sox and Roland Heeman was running the baseball operations, they'd set up a table downstairs in the lobby, in front of the media. It was such an event. And now it's really become more of a free agent who's going to sign type of thing. But if you had a deadline for trades and
that would be
for free agency over a $10 million a year AAV, you had to do it by that Wednesday. Oh my goodness.
That'd be fantastic. Euthanasia says he sees what I'm doing with the hats behind me. Yeah, those are the standings, the way they ended up last season. That's the standings there.
Ned,
Oh, go ahead.
Quick
Go ahead,
question.
Los.
Ned, in football and basketball, teams can trade up with another team, multiple picks to move up.
Yep.
In the first round. Is there something in the collective bargaining agreement with baseball that does not allow that? Because correct me if I'm wrong, it's not done. Correct?
No.
Okay.
You can trade slot money and things like that internationally. I mean, you can, they've expanded their thought process some, but by and large, you can't. If you're a team rebuilding, you can't go acquire another pick, another first round pick. You just can't do it. So,
Got it.
I got a question for you, Ned. You're a great historian when it comes to baseball. You were nearly pretty much ran the Giants with Brian Sabian, then went to the Dodgers you were there from what, 06 through 13, was it?
GM, I started in the month of November in 05 after the 05 91 loss season. Started after that and then did it for 9 years till the end of 14.
Into 14, okay.
For another 6-7 years after that.
Okay. All right. So, so 13, 14, you won the divisions. In 09, 10, was it? You went to the NLCS?
Division in 06. We went to the LCS in 08 and 09.
Yeah.
And 13 and won a division in 14.
Wow. So
and got eliminated the next to the last day one time.
Yeah.
Wow. Your San Francisco Giants.
Wow. The Dodgers have done it too. The Giants a few times, I think, too. So it's
back and forth.
Yeah. If baseball owners, all of a sudden Rob Manfred says, you know what, I'm done. And baseball owners they come to Ned Colletti and say, Ned, we want you to be the next commissioner of the
We got to worry about that happening. That ain't happening.
Ned likes he likes his lifestyle.
If they did, would you?
No, they in all due respect, they don't have interest in me.
They're looking for an attorney type person.
I don't know what they're. You're all hypothetical here, Danny.
Yeah, it's a hypothetical. I'm just wondering
hypotheticalness and just say it's never going to happen.
I loved your idea of the trade going back to the winter meetings, because baseball has in many ways fallen behind, the NFL and the NBA. In the 50s and 60s, baseball was king in America.
Oh, even later than that, but you're right.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah, it was a national pastime.
Right. Probably even through the 70s and into the 80s, it was like all of a sudden the NFL started getting bigger and bigger, and then when Magic Johnson and Larry Bird came into the NBA, all of a sudden the NBA started to grow, and now you look and everybody loves baseball when it's playoff time, but during the 6 months of the season, it can get a little long where people just don't follow it as much. And we look at what the NFL's done with the calendar. They pretty much are a 12 months. They've got the combines, they've got the NFL draft, they've got they constantly in the news, and the NBA is doing the same thing now. And like you said, MLB last year was horrible. They started in November, and guys were not signed until mid to late March. And
you know what else it does too, and it's amazing how many people who were GMs don't want to do it again.
Interesting.
Because it never ends.
Yeah.
It truly never ends.
Good point.
I mean, in the hockey world, we get a chance to take a breath after free agency, and by the time you get to the middle of July, you're still around and you're still, in conversations. But most of the quote heavy lifting is done. Other sports the same way, but baseball it never stops. Farhan had to stay in touch with Snell and Chapman's guy. I think it's Scott in both cases. Till when? Till March?
Yeah.
Think about that. You go 162 games in 183 days after playing 30 games in the spring, but that don't count. And then you're playing 200 games. If you're the last place team, you're playing 200 games.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it just ramps up after that, and it just kind of drags on. The stories are, well, is he going to sign by spring training? Will he sign during the Super Bowl? Will he sign? It's like there's no end to it and no respite to the thought process, which I don't know really how healthy that is.
Yeah, it's always made me chuckle a little bit when they have the NBA free agency period in the NFL, and it's like they're not allowed to negotiate, and then at 12:01, this guy signed.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like,
One of the quickest negotiations of all time. 20 guys signed within a minute.
Yeah, it's like, it's great, but it's like baseball could actually do that if they put windows on it, and there's ways to do it, and you put it out there. Things worse than death.
Danny, there's a topic that I've brought up on the show. I'd love to bring it up with Ned and pick his brain on it. Correct me if I'm wrong. The first baseball player to make $1 million a year, was it Nolan Ryan or was it Dave Winfield? I think it was Nolan Ryan. Okay. The question I have is, I've always been curious from a salary point of view. I'm in finance, I'm in mortgages, so money and all that stuff always fascinates me. But the way baseball views a dominant starting pitcher versus a dominant everyday player, they get paid more or less top end, dollars. That's why I said I think Winfield and Nolan Ryan were the first players to make $1 million. But to me, I've always found that interesting, that I always joke that baseball is the only company or business in the world that pays a part-time player the same as a full-time player, because a dominant baseball pitcher, whoever that may be, at best, you're going to get 30 to 35 starts out of them. If you're going to 6-man rotations, it's going to be even less than that.
Yes.
A dominant everyday player is going to play, back in the day, 155 to 160 games. They can win with their glove. They can win with their arm. They can win with their legs. I've always wondered how in negotiations, the agent of a starting pitcher can say, my guy should make $40 million a year playing 35 games, whereas your dominant everyday player is going to make the same amount of money, whether it's this era or that era. It's always fascinated me. And I know pitching is everything when it comes to baseball, but still 35 versus 155. If I'm an everyday player, I'm saying, wow, that must be nice to just sit for 4 or 5 days. And I know they throw and they do all their routines in between, but Ned, has that ever been brought up in any discussions that you've had, starting pitching versus everyday players?
But it is what it is.
Yeah, it is, exactly. That's the
because
answer
you can't win without both. But without pitching, you really have no chance.
They have all the leverage.
There's a lot of teams that, the Cardinal teams that the late Whitey Herzog managed. Not a lot of power on those teams,
right?
But they knew how to play and they could pitch, and so they always were in it. I think he won a World Series one time with really no closer when he got to the middle of September, and then I think Worrell came up and took over, but at the end, so you can win. It's hard, but you got to be fundamentally sound and execute if you're position players. And you can win games, but if you can't pitch, you got no chance to win.
Oh, definitely.
And it's just, but you're right. It's crazy how much starting pitching goes for. Even Blake Snell, who had a great second half. Somebody said that if he pitches his normal amount of innings, it'll be worth $200,000 an inning.
Wow,
that's $65,000 an out.
Yeah,
that's pretty good pay.
That's nice pay. This cracks me up here. Things worse than death. $1.09. So weird. You can't trade MLB draft picks. Change that. And then Jake says
you got to do a lot of things to change it. See, the draft is there. They say, if we asked the crowd out in your audience, Danny, or you two guys, the draft is there to keep competitive balance and let the teams that lose the most games pick the best amateurs.
Right.
That's part of it. It's also for cost certainty. If you had the number one pick in the draft who could negotiate with any team, what's that number going to be?
Oh, yeah.
it's going to be huge. So a little bit of it's cost certainty too. I think the idea that you can't trade picks in baseball has been there for a long time under the premise that, hey, the teams that are struggling need to be able to pick the best players. And at this stage, you have to collectively bargain it, and people have got to agree on all sides. So, they may change. I know when I was GMing it, there was some talk of it being brought up to a vote and things like that, and then taken to the union if it carried and if the ownership agreed. But it takes a lot to move something drastically.
Yeah, and you talk about
say yes.
The draft. A lot of people kind of playing off things worse than death's names. And what's worse than death? As people are asking.
You know what I miss about the game is how each team individually put their team together, whether it's because of the stadium dimensions or whatever the case may be. And now the game's gotten more into, whoever wins, let's copy that, or everybody's into power. Batting average is a little bit less important. Power pitching, everybody throwing 98 to 100 miles an hour. I miss the game when teams were just, we're going to build our team this way because there's different ways to win the game. One of my favorite World Series ever was 1982, the Cardinals against the Brewers. You couldn't have two more opposite teams in the way they play the game. The Cardinals were all speed. I think their leading home run hitter was Hendrick, maybe 17 homers. The Brewers were pure power. It went 7 games, and it was a complete contrast of two different styles of teams. I wish the game could get back to that, but probably it won't.
Carlos, I don't think you were that old, but you were right on.
Yeah.
You were right on.
82. I love those days, those times.
Yeah, I was looking at the draft the other day, just going through the top of the different years' drafts, and I think baseball, probably more than any sport, has the largest number of misses of number 1 draft picks. I looked at it, and there was maybe out of 30 picked on average, maybe 10 to 15 in that range even made the majors. I mean, a lot of them just don't even pan out. It's probably the toughest sport to succeed in because, you're starting out and then you got to go through 3, maybe 5 years, depending on how old you are when you get drafted in the minors. And then there's other people every year, 30 to 50 people coming in that are, going, and there's only a few jobs. It's not like,
Exactly.
you get drafted in the NFL, the number 1 pick, or NBA, you're going to get a shot regardless if you're failing or not, because they've got an investment in you. Whereas I know these guys get paid pretty good bonuses to sign, but if they're not making it in baseball, there's no hiding it. I mean, you can't get up there and just, the guy can't hit, he can't hit.
No. And it's you're right on too with saying what you did about both leagues. The NBA, I think, has 2 rounds.
Right.
You have a limited number of players on your team. You have 2 rounds. And you can, there's 18, 19-year-olds that are getting drafted. The NFL, none of those people are just coming out of high school. They've all played college football, some for 4 years. So, you have a tremendous, quote, minor league system in college football to see who can and who can't. And their draft isn't that long. So, baseball's a different, you make a great point. There's very few players that just go from the draft to the big leagues. It's minimal. And there's very few that don't take 2 or 3 or 4 years. And there's some that take 6, 7, 8 years. So as an athlete, if you're gifted, you want to play baseball and wait 5 or 6 years to really start to get to the show and ride buses for 140 games in the minor leagues. There's been a lot of players that have probably chosen who are athletic enough to be going. You mentioned Dave Winfield, though I think was drafted by three different leagues.
Yeah, he was.
It's just a tougher road.
Before I get to the next super chat, I was reading this the other day. I thought this was unbelievable when I read it. See if you can know who this is. I really believe that this boy would possibly be a number one player taken in the country if only he looked a bit more physical. He throws 86 to 89 consistently with very good movement.
I'd say Greg Maddux.
Yeah, you got it. His movement isn't a gradual trailing type, but a quick, explosive, bat-breaking kink. He has a big league curveball right now, although he needs to be a little more consistent with it. He threw a couple this day that were 79 miles per hour, tight, down-breaking, well-located pitches. I don't think I've ever seen a 10 curveball, but these several pitches come about as close as you are going to get. That's why you have good scouts. Man, that guy nailed it.
The chances of somebody being drafted in the second round, which Greg was, and I was in Chicago when the Cubs drafted him, and I traded for him twice, known him, saw him a lot. That the report says 86 to 89. How many kids you think are getting drafted right now, throwing 86 to 89, let alone the second round? It ain't happening. So
I have a friend right now that his kid is hitting close to 500. He's a middle infielder. He's got speed, and he's visited 3 college campuses. And quite frankly, they said if he doesn't hit for power, they're not looking for kids like that. And that you can't have 9 guys that hit 30 homers. You have, like we said at the beginning of the show, you have to have balance. You have to have your guys that get on base, that steal, that do the little things to win the game. You can't have 9 guys that are power hitters. So it's disturbing that some colleges are saying things like that, and some scouts.
MM forever. He was with us last the other night when you were on, Ned. Ned, why didn't Major League Baseball force John Fisher to sell like they made McCourt sell? As I remember similar issues with finance issues, I find it hypocritical.
Well, it's a great question. Dodgers were sold. We're in bankruptcy at the time. We're sold on May 1st, 2012. Changed hands on May 1st, 2012. I'm not sure of all the dynamics. I'm not sure of all the backroom conversations that go down between ownership and people who've owned teams for a long time and the game. So I don't know. I mean, that is a tremendous question, but I just don't have an answer. Sorry there, MM forever. Is that Mickey Mantle forever?
That might be. That's good.
Minnie Minoso. Remember Minnie Minoso?
I do. Hey, tell us in the chat there, MM forever, what if that is after Mickey Mantle?
You can just tell them it's Mickey Mantle or Minnie Minoso. You have to really tell us who it is. We don't want to pry into your personal business, but
yeah.
I wish I was born a decade earlier and could have seen baseball in the 60s. I would have loved to see Mace and Mantle and all the players.
There were smaller players.
Yeah, the 60s to me is I don't know. Everybody has a different opinion. To me, the 60s is the best decade.
I am working on a video. I'm compiling the information right now. It's going to be an interesting video. I am going to put together a 26-man roster that is built to win, not necessarily just 26 like-minded players. Like, for example, my starting outfield already is Barry in left, Willie in center, and Hank Aaron in right. But I'm also going to have Ricky Henderson on this team when I need to send a guy in to guy gets on base late innings. I need a stolen base. I'm trying to figure out if I want to bring Ozzie Smith in there as my backup shortstop. I'm leaning A-Rod. I'm leaning George Brett at third. I'm not sure. DH, do I got Ted Williams or do I have Babe Ruth? Where does Shohei fit into this? It's going to be wild. It's going to be tough to narrow it down to 26.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
luck.
there's just too many players.
Yeah, I'm like, who am I going to put it first? I'm thinking I'm leaning Albert Pujols right now, but I there's others. There's Lou Gehrig. I mean, where do you go? So
Did you say you were doing? Did you say you were doing data compilation? You're not doing
No,
analytics.
I'm
You're
just
not doing
picking
analytics, are you?
No, I'm trying to build I want to build a team that I think would win 135, 140 games and win the
Well,
World
just look
Series.
at the Dodger team. They're going to win you 120.
Great segue.
Just leave it
Because I have
That
some
was-
questions for you with the Dodgers.
Why do you need 135 if you want 120? You
was
want
a batting-
115.
That was a batting practice fastball for Ned.
There we
You know
go.
what was I read today? We're talking about the Dodgers, but really talking about the NL West. San Diego is in trouble. Their payroll's not going anywhere.
No, they're in trouble. And then with the death
And
of
they almost
Seidler,
have to subtract.
yeah,
And
they're in trouble. This is their best. Last year was kind of like they were like the 49ers of last year. That was their window to win.
Yeah.
And they may have one crack at it this year, but they have free agents coming up after this year. Michael King and Dylan Cease are both free agents after next year. And they're probably going to – that's why they have to try and get Roki Sasaki because, he's young and they're going to need pitching. But Hugh Darvish is going to have to really get into the negotiations with his buddy, I guess. But
San Diego has to be kicking themselves because nobody played the Dodgers tougher than them.
they were the team that could have won. They could have won the World Series.
I think so too.
Then you get to game 4,
right?
And Cease is pitching against the bullpen.
I know it's
And I think you're at home. Yeah, you're
at home. You got shut out.
You lose 8-0. You're done. You're done. There's, they say that the winter solstice, December 21st, I think, is the longest night of the year, right? The longest darkness of the year. The longest night of the year is when you have a chance to win and you have a home game and you lose. And now you have to travel and play a deciding game on the road. That is the longest night of the year.
Speaking of the longest night of the year, I hate to bring you back to this, but Giants fans remember it well. Game 6, 2002, Giants are up 5-0.
Now, why are we talking about this? It's Thanksgiving weekend. Everybody's in a good mood. People.
I know. I just wanted to ask the question: did you guys feel like internally, you and Brian, did you feel like, how are we going to show up tomorrow and compete?
Come on, Danny. Now this is the big leagues. This is the World Series. How are we going to show up and compete?
I know, but was it a defeating? Was it? Did you go into that confident? Like, yeah, I mean, and did you Hernandez pitched Game 7, but you had Kirk Reeder available, and Dusty made the call because he felt like if he didn't pitch Hernandez, he would lose him. He wouldn't be available, and was that a? I mean, was that one of the
fact or is that hearsay?
That's hearsay. That's hearsay.
So we're gonna believe hearsay?
I don't know. I just. But was that one of the worst nights? In your baseball
Game
career?
6?
Yeah,
Game 7?
Yeah, going to bed after Game 6.
Yeah, I can't think of two. I mean, I could probably think of a few worse ones, or not worse, but as bad. But
yeah,
no doubt would have been the first championship in San Francisco's baseball history.
I know. I was.
I don't know how many outs away. I don't count outs, but we were in the home stretch.
Hindsight is 20/20 for sure. But I always thought, and it's done more now than back then. But Jason Schmidt was maybe the most dominant pitcher, if not the top 3 in the National League that year. He just pitched Game 5. I believe it was a complete game, and they had the day of rest. Like, I would have loved Jason Schmidt to have finished off that game from Ortiz, but that wasn't thought of at that time. It was.
You're right. You're right. What I mean? It wasn't. It was like the 01 series.
Yeah.
When Johnson and Schilling. Finished each other's games, I think. Yeah, it wasn't something that was a train of thought, really.
Right. Right, because
You
it
know,
was
when the Giants did win, you got young Madison coming in and pitching, 5-6 innings
5 innings.
to wrap
Yeah.
it up, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
After he pitched,
Dusty did what had worked all year long, and you can't fault him for it. It was
No.
Felix Hernandez in the 7th, Worrell in the 8th, and then in the 9th,
That's
Nen's arm was kind of hurting at that time, but you figured, hey, it was 5-0. We can get 7 outs, 8 outs, but yeah.
Yeah, we got to change the subject here.
okay, we'll go to
You guys can talk this out, you know.
we'll go to MM. He's
Hey,
MM
man.
forever. He's is a Dodger fan.
CC
Okay?
Sabathia.
CC Sabathia.
The answer is I could have traded for CC Sabathia. I'm about 90% sure I had a deal. Would have gotten CC and Casey Blake and Jamie Carroll in the middle of July in 2008. You can look it up. The Milwaukee Brewers acquired him from Cleveland on a Monday or a Tuesday. We were in San Francisco. It was a Saturday. Had maybe an early start. And that late morning, I thought I had a deal done. And ownership said at the end, you know what, we're not going to take on the money or trade 5 prospects, of which one turned out to be a good player in Carlos Santana. We also had a young catcher named Russell Martin who, was a star in the making. But yeah, didn't take me long to answer that question.
Yeah.
He ended up winning 8 or 9 games from Milwaukee.
But you were able to
dynamic. And then a couple weeks later I got Manny.
Yeah, that story was great.
So in theory, we could have gotten CC Sabathia, Casey Blake, Jamie Carroll, Manny Ramirez, and then Greg Maddux in the middle of August, who we acquired. That would have put us in a great. We went to the 5th game of the LCS that year, but that would have changed the entire dynamic of so many things for us.
Wow.
But we didn't do it. We ended up getting Casey Blake, and Cleveland paid his salary, and I moved Carlos Santana in that deal, and then got Manny, and Theo paid all the contract on Manny, and then I got Greg, and my dear friend, the late Kevin Towers, had to pay all the contract on Greg. So
wow,
a little bit different form of negotiation compared to today, but all is well.
What's it like as a GM and, dealing with your owners when you sign a guy, like you signed Jason Schmidt, then he had injury problems. You can't foresee that. I mean, the 49ers signed Ayuk to a big contract this year. He blows his knee out earlier this year. They extended McCaffrey. He got hurt tonight. He's been announced. He's out for the season. When these things happen to you as a GM, I mean, obviously you feel for the player as well, but now you got a job to do and you got to figure out how to make your team better. And what is that like? And especially if you got an owner like the situation you were with when you were financially strapped, you lose a guy and it's like your hands are kind of tied. But today's Dodgers, it's completely different. They lose a guy, they just reload and ante up.
Well, yeah, part of being in that position is you need to know that you don't know what today is going to bring. And you have to be prepared for all sorts of things, not knowing what you're going to have to ultimately be prepared for. So, that's just the gig. That's what you got to figure out, and that's what you got to do. Nobody feels sorry for you. In some cases you have insurance on a player, which typically the player will have to miss maybe 80 games, and then you start to collect, or 50 games or 60, it's all written differently. And then you can collect maybe 80% of the daily rate going forward to help you with some of the costs. Insurance is not cheap, but you just have to carry on. And if you've done your due diligence ahead of time, and you mentioned the 49er player, I'm sure that they did their due diligence, and who can predict that? And Jason, we did our due diligence. Who can predict that? So in fact, we saw him, I think, pitch his last game of the season. I think the Giants and the Dodgers played the last game that year. We did, in fact, I think in 06. I think we signed him in the winter of 06, 07. So you do your due diligence, and not everything is going to show up on an X-ray or an MRI.
Right.
So if you do your due diligence and things happen, well, you got to live with it. Nobody's going to be happy about it.
Yeah. Now, we just watched the 49ers lose tonight. They're 5-7. They came off. They didn't have a Super Bowl championship, but they had a Super Bowl run, and they kind of have a hangover. What's it like for baseball teams that win a World Series to stay? Do teams they take a breath at all, or how do they stay focused?
Great question. It's it takes special people.
Mm-hmm.
It takes special people to win to begin with. And then it takes people who are so hungry that they're not going to be fulfilled by one title. And they go and they do it again. And that takes a special group. There's many teams that they win once and you don't see them again. The dynasty is tough to find. I'm not sure what the Giants did in the odd numbered years after winning and then not winning and then winning and not winning and then winning, but I don't remember them as being like as good the next year as they were the year they won, but they were good the next year. So, that's phenomenal what they did. 3 out of 5. I mean, I think the last time anybody won 3 out of 5 in the National League was during the Second World War. So not easy to do in any stretch, but you have to think about it. And I working in hockey, I always look at the teams that won or made it to the finals and how they come out the next season. Because first off, teams that don't make the playoffs in the NHL, they're done the middle of April. Teams that go to the finals in the NHL, they're done the middle of June. You've played another 60 days.
Right.
And camp is going to open in the middle of September. So one team has got, to May to June, July to August, you got 5 months off. The other team's got 3 months off, and they're physically exhausted. Whether they won it or they lost it, they have put so much into it. The Florida Panthers are off to a great start. To me, that is super impressive. Are they going to be able to maintain it? We'll see. Is that guys have played a lot more hockey than anybody else. It's hard to do it, but it takes special people to do it. It's almost like signing a player to a free agent contract. If any of us were told tomorrow, well, I'm going to pay you $25 million a year, and I expect you to work every day and do what you're supposed to do, but if you don't, you're still getting paid. Well, some guys you're not going to see again, or you're going to see a haphazard approach. Same type of thing. You win. Do you have the hunger to keep going? Many don't, but that's how you build a dynasty, because many do. Look at the Yankees at the turn of the last century. Can't believe I'm saying at the turn of the last century, but at the turn of the last century.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you think about that, Ned. You look at a lot of players that, some of my projections for players, I look at, they're on the last year of a contract. I think this guy's going to have a big year, and it happens all the time.
Always.
And as a GM, I guess you got to look at the track record, the whole thing, and say, was this an aberration? Was this? I mean, that's tough, because a guy can have 3 really bad years, and then his contract year, all of a sudden, he's MVP of the league.
Say it all the time.
Absolutely. It's hard.
Oh, gosh. What a tough job for a GM to be in, because everybody's like, sign this guy. And you're like, well, I'm looking at
why did he do it the prayer?
When you had that, now couple that, and you laid it out good, both of you, couple that with the performance enhancing drug era, where you don't know who's doing what.
Yep.
Is this real or is this manufactured?
Right.
And why was it mediocre in your example there for 3 straight years, and now suddenly MVP? You know, so that was a very, very tough era to be making player judgments. You know, you had to really look at a lot of different things to make your decisions.
Danny, a big topic on the show has always been pick a lane pertaining to the Giants. Like, don't stay in the middle, either rebuild or go all in, but don't stay in the middle because that's the worst thing to be. And it pertains to a certain degree to the 49ers and the Warriors as well. But I tell you what, I watched the Sharks the first time all season I've watched a Sharks game from beginning to end against Ottawa this week. I almost came back and won that game. And I'll tell you what, I was excited watching this young talented team. You could just see the raw talent, the speed that they have. And they just make mistakes and they turn the puck over. And, they're going to learn how to get better and better and better. And you know what? I'm a fan of all four teams. But to me, like, I hate the philosophy of, well, the Giants can't do that because the fan base is not going to accept a rebuild. And I know Shark fans don't have the longevity the Giants fans do, but the Shark fan base is extremely passionate. And if they can go all in with this team, rebuilding, going young, knowing that down the road, this is not just going to be an okay team. This is going to be a really good contending team. I just don't understand the other three fan bases, why they don't think that more often, because
it's hard to do.
It is really hard to do. But if I had to put my money, Ned, if I had to put my money on one of those four teams winning the next championship, I'm with Danny. I'm going with the Sharks.
Yeah.
It's always better.
We went through a couple tough years. Last year was so hard.
Yep.
I think we gave up 10 goals maybe in back-to-back games. We started the season against really good teams and didn't win a game for a while. It was hard. I give our GM, our leader, Mike Greer, so much credit because he's ultra competitive, and to have to bide your time. And have to strip it down and trade a great player and a great fan favorite, Thomas Hurdle, at the deadline. And it's like, these are hard things to do, but we're starting to see the payback from the pain of defeat. They play so hard and they are so energetic and so full of excitement. Macklin scored. I was a couple games ago. As I said, I was there for the last three, a game against Seattle, then the two AHL games against Abbotsford Canucks. Just the energy in the building and the energy that these players bring. The look on Macklin's face when he scores a goal is like pure joy. And we've lost more than we've won, but we're getting close to being a 500 team after winning, I think, 19 games last year. I think we already won 10. We still got months to go, but it's exciting. The AHL team too plays hard. We had a 3-0 lead on Friday. Abbotsford came back, tied it. Most of the time when you lose a 3-goal lead, it's like losing a 6 or 7 run lead in baseball. Once you've lost that lead, momentum's gone.
Mentally, you're done.
Yeah, came back and won. Last night, 2-goal lead. Lost it. Came back and won. It's just, it's coming. It's coming. And it's exciting.
Sharks are
very exciting.
9-13 and 5. Yeah. So they're 23 points, but much better than last year. I love seeing young guys come up together. It's really how the Giants won their 3 world championships. If you look at it, their whole infield, if you go around the diamond, in the infield, it was Buster Posey, Brandon Belt, Joe Panic was in there for the 14 one. Brandon Crawford was in there for 2. Panda Sandoval was there. And then your pitching staff, 3 starting pitchers, Kane, Lincecum, and Mad Bum. And then you had relievers. You had Brian Wilson in there. You had Sergio Romo, all these guys homegrown. And they come up together. And that's it.
That's it. Homegrown. And they grow together and they learn together. And because that's how life is, not just sports. So very refreshing. Very refreshing.
We got another one from MM Forever. Would you ever consider coming back to the Dodgers?
I consider a lot of things, so, but I can, I love the sport. I'm gonna, half your audience is gonna be mad, the other half's gonna be okay, but half of them are gonna be mad again. I love both franchises. Both franchises were key to my career, and I made so many good friends. I have so many friends. I left the Giants 19 years ago. I was with the Dodgers for 17, and then I shut it down a couple of years back. That's a long time for a guy that never thought I'd live in California, born in Chicago. I've been in California, 30 years I've been here. But, I love the franchises. And, the series a couple of years ago when they met in the playoffs, to me was the ultimate. Two great franchises, a lot of friends on both clubs, a lot of friends in both front offices, and they're going to play in the postseason against each other. So, but yeah, I would consider anything. It depends. It depends what it is.
Ned, do you have
my time? How I spend my time is one of the most important things I could ever do, especially at this stage of life.
Absolutely. And Eddie K says he'd like you to personally tell Mike Greer, thank you for getting Wallman and Steve Yzerman.
From Steve Yzerman.
Ned, do you have a personal favorite venue in Canada to see a hockey game, whether it's the arena, the city, or the fan base kind of rolled into one?
That's a great question. Montreal is.
I was going to guess Montreal.
The Yankees in a lot of ways. They've struggled the last many years now. And the Montreal Forum has been replaced by the Bell Center. But when you're in a Canadian city, it can be Tuesday night at 5:00. And the game could be at 7:10.
Yep.
The city shuts down. There's just a buzz, and it could be, it could be Thanksgiving week or November, not Thanksgiving in Canada, but it could be, 20 games in. The city shuts down. It is that big. I love Canada, and I love the arenas I've been in. I think I haven't been to Winnipeg not this arena in Winnipeg, but before that. I've been in Calgary a bunch of times, Edmonton a handful of times, Toronto many times, Montreal many times, Ottawa a few times.
As far as food goes, Vancouver versus Toronto is pretty tough, huh?
Yeah,
slight edge to Toronto, maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
Bigger city.
City, yeah.
But I don't think there's a prettier place in North America than the Vancouver, Whistler area.
Oh, it's beautiful. I went to
phenomenal.
2000, I think it was 2004. I won, being in the insurance business, it was awarded a trip to Banff, Canada.
Oh, yeah.
And, oh, my goodness, just beautiful. Absolutely stunning. It was the middle of July. And at the time, I took my two oldest kids with me. And they were, 2004. They were 86, born in 86 and 88. So that would have made them 16 and 18? Yeah, something like that. And I said, hey, just be careful, because they wanted to go out. And it was like 11 at night, and they were walking the streets, but it was pure daylight.
Oh, yeah.
It did not get dark until after midnight when we were up there. And I'm like, so I felt comfortable letting them kind of roam the streets while I was in meetings. But beautiful area, just absolutely beautiful.
Phenomenal. They have baseball in Alaska.
Oh.
At least they had a college league. I'm not sure if they still do. But they had games that started at midnight. And they didn't need lights.
Oh.
And if you look at the alumni that played in Alaska, you'll see some of the great players in the game played there.
Maybe the A's should have went to Alaska.
The Alaska A's has a nice
be a long plane ride from just about everywhere.
Yeah. Ned, the Dodgers have mastered this thing with deferring contracts. And a lot of people, no one else really is doing it that much. the Dodgers,
Smart.
you know, it's interesting because I kind of pointed this out how they would do it. I wish other teams would do it and employ me because I can show them how to make money on deferring contracts because that's what Guggenheim specializes in. Guggenheim is an insurance company, and what they do is they defer that money and then they take that money that they would have paid and then invest it, and over time they make money on there. They're making money. They're brilliant. It's a brilliant concept. Brilliant. Yeah. And I just want to pull up here some of the Dodger contracts and have you explain this to everybody, why the Dodgers are doing it. And here's Sport Track is showing or Spot Rack is actually how you say it, but the Dodgers have now secured $964 million of deferred payments since July 2020. Shohei has 680 deferred. Yeah. Mookie 115. Blake Snell has deferred 62. Freddie Freeman 57. Will Smith 50. And then they just signed, this one isn't even up to date. They just added deferred money to Tommy Edmonds, I believe, too, didn't they?
I think you're right.
Yeah. So
it's almost $1 billion.
Right. And they will make payments.
What's the note after
that? This one,
right there.
Every other deferral attachment major league adds up to $271 million. So they've got almost $1 billion. So and over the rest of baseball. And it says right here in the article, this isn't rocket science. The Dodgers aren't the only team capitalizing on deferred payouts to star players. The Nationals are paying Steven Strasburg, $26.7 million every July 1st, but only for 3 years. But some of these guys, the Dodgers are going to be paying guys for 10, 20 years, starting in the 2030 to 40 range.
Wasn't Bobby Bonilla the first one to do that with that contract?
Well, he was the most famous. He's still getting paid.
He's still getting paid. Yeah, Bobby Bonilla Day, right? Is we have let's see. Here it is. Since then, the Dodgers agreed to deferred money with Teoscar, Hernandez, Will Smith, and Blake Snell. They were already deferring at least $8 million to Mookie Betts for 11 years, from 33 to 44. Freddie Freeman is getting at least $4 million from 28 to 40. This is why it would not shock me, Ned, if they pulled together a deal with Juan Soto. It just wouldn't shock me because,
God,
you know, why wouldn't you do it if you're the Dodgers and if baseball allows it
more than 3 or 4 years? We talked about this on an earlier show with you.
Yeah,
you know, I think he's going to be a DH before long. When Shohei's not pitching,
could Shohei play first base in his 30s?
Shohei can probably do anything.
Right. He's very athletic.
But what are you going to do with Freddie?
Well, Freddie's gone in a few years. 3 years he's got left.
Boy, you're World Series hero.
Yeah, but I mean, he's under contract
Danny.
He's under contract for 3 more years, what I'm saying. So I would think Freddie's either going to.
Well, then maybe they do that. And maybe we'll have a show here in the next couple of weeks in the middle of the week, unprompted, where we'll be talking about him wearing Dodger blue. And the Giant fans, you'll lose all your Giant fans if that happens.
Fact.
I didn't do it. It's not my fault. I'm just saying, look, teams, I don't know why teams don't get more creative, you know. I mean,
well, I believe there's a change to the CBA years ago that if you're going to defer money, you got to be able to prove you can fund it. Because the Arizona Diamondbacks, when they won in 2001, and I don't know the entire list, but they were on a 50-50 basis with many players. Half your contract will be deferred, half of it will pay you this year. And they won it all. And then people started to ask, well, who's going to pay for this? Do they have the money to field a team and pay for this? Now, the Dodgers are in a different situation than the Diamondbacks were, and the game is in a different situation than 2001. But, I think you have to prove that you can fund it. And obviously, this group can prove they can fund it because they're going to, as you guys said, they're going to end up making more than they're paying in the deferral.
Right.
Look, telling you what they made on Shohei just in 1 year.
Yeah, it's an incredible.
Maybe more than 68.
They made 120 million last year on
Shohei
with sponsorships in Japan and
just on Shohei.
Yeah, just on Shohei they made.
Well, there you go.
Million.
They're paying 68 million 10 years from now because it'll be the year 11.
Right.
And they still got 10 years to get there. And
right.
10 years to take the 120 and invest that. This was a genius deal.
Absolutely.
And supposedly offered it. And
because the Dodgers, they're an insurance company. This is what they do is they invest money. I mean, I teach people that, tell people everybody should know the rule of 72. Rule of 72 is if you earn 7.2%, your money doubles every 10 years. So the Dodgers can easily get a 10-year annuity, putting in whatever they're going to owe Shohei, $700 million or $680 million.
Yep.
Starts. All they got to do is put in about $340 million for 10 years, and it'll double. And so they, in essence, didn't pay out $700 million; they paid out $340 plus the $2 million. That's how you do it.
They are brilliant.
And gosh, I wish people would come to me. I could help you do that yourself. But it's like Fuji, man, 13. Good to see you, Fuji Simeon. Ned is right. Defer payments require teams show they can afford to pay the amount and place money in escrow over time in case team owners go bankrupt. Yeah. And
it's good to see your name again.
Yeah. And insurance companies, just by the way, they have to have $1 in reserve for every dollar they take in. So Guggenheim is totally. What would happen, Ned, to baseball if there's 30 teams, one insurance team or group owns one of the 30 teams? What would happen if 10 more insurance groups got in and started doing what the Dodgers were doing?
Well,
it'd be like a bidding wars.
Players would probably like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve Cohen hasn't done badly. Steinbrenner's haven't done badly.
Yeah. Steve Cohen's worth $21 billion with a B.
Is that
billion. A lot? Well, just think he could pay Soto if he wanted to. If it took $800 million to get the deal secured, he could pay him $800 million over 14 years, and it would be like you and I going down and buying a Starbucks coffee.
Jeez.
I'm so old that I remember when the Big Ten was 10 teams and the Pac-10 was 10 teams, and our highest paid player was Bill Buckner. The late Bill Buckner was making like $400,000 a year. And then we traded for Larry Bowa, who I think became our highest paid player at $500,000 a year. So you think about $500,000 a year, a lot of money. If a baseball player makes, let's say, 18.5, a lot of guys are probably making 18.5 a year at this stage, right? I don't know how many, 75 to 100. During the baseball season, that's $100,000 a day. So if you're up in the mid 30s, you're making $200,000 a day. So I think Bo was our highest paid player, making $500 over a season. So think about if you're making 36, your week, Monday through Sunday, is probably worth 1.4.
You damn near made as much as Boa did playing a doubleheader.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you don't get paid by the game; you get paid by the day.
Yeah.
But yeah,
wow.
Take
That's
a
true. That's true.
3-day
That's true.
weekend, you'd end up surpassing them.
Hey guys, we're going to get out of here in 10 minutes. So if you got more questions, go ahead and get those in now for Ned. We'll go till 10 o'clock here. So 8-9 more minutes. So get your questions
You're right
in.
on. You pay attention. You're right on.
Yep. Hence, deferred payments need to be honored, set aside. Yep. There we go. Thank you, Fuji. Yeah, so this is going to be an interesting winter because if the New York Mets and Steve Cohen do get Juan Soto and retain Alonso and they've got Lindor, that could be a challenge to the Dodgers, especially if they get some more pitching. They're going to need pitching. They're definitely going to have to go out and get a Burns or somebody. But do the Dodgers think in the terms of like, would they try to block? I mean, or do they just not worry about other teams? You just do what you
about other teams. You just got to take care of your own business.
Yeah.
Now you do this a lot, Danny, and I love the fantasy approach that you got. If we just add these 7 guys, we're going to be pretty good. Well,
the Mets have to. The Mets have to retain
for 2 or 3 guys, and we're going to sign the top 3 pitchers.
Yeah,
on the market, and then we're going to go do this. And
when you look at a guy like Soto and he sees what Shohei kind of did last year by interviewing the owners and wanting to know, like Shohei's got in his contract that if the Dodgers, if
Andrew or Mark Walter leave,
he could leave. So is Soto, if he signs with another team, like say other than the Yankees or whoever he signs with, does he have a say in kind of like what Shohei did to make
I've
the
never
team?
heard of that before. It probably tagged along with, hey, I'll defer 68 out of 70 a year. It was part of the negotiation, no doubt, and it speaks very well for Andrew and the ownership that a player would say, if they're gone, I want the chance to be out.
Yeah,
I'm sure. I know that, and I've known Scott a long time, and Scott is going to have many meetings with everybody of consequence in all these teams, and he's as probably the most well-prepared agent I've ever been around. He will know, and I mean it's an opinion, but it's an educated opinion. He'll know who's coming up in the system. He'll have, in essence, probably a chart that will show Soto. This is what the team's going to look like in year 2, in year 3, in year 4, in year 5, within reason, right? I mean, you can't predict everything, but they're going to need starting pitching, or they're going to need this, or they're not going to have a center fielder, or whatever it is. So there'll be multiple conversations. They'll be in depth. Scott's represented him, I think, maybe his whole career, and so they've been preparing for this for a long time. And Scott Boras Corporation's probably got 130 to 150 employees, and they're not doing podcasts. They're figuring out.
Well, Scott and I, we're in negotiations with Scott right now to take us on, but I'm not sure if he's going to do it or not. But I think he's considering it for about 3 seconds. 2, 1. No, he said no. Okay.
Hey, Ned, question. If the Dodgers came to Shohei and said, we'd like to make you a closer to save some wear and tear in your arm, a la Dennis Eckersley, you think he would be open to that, or do you think his mindset, no one?
He might.
Okay.
He might. His mindset has probably got a lot of different aspects to it, but and I don't know him. You know, I had interest in signing him as an 18-year-old a while back now. I think winning is what drives him.
Great.
So if he thought that closing, he could do it, he could probably do anything he wants to do, then that would be beneficial to him, to the organization. You know, not every day, not back to back, but periodically, you know, be a second option.
Right.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I don't know, but I would think that he, you know, if it helped the team get better and win games, yeah, he'd probably do it. The answer to that, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, they're both going to Cooperstown. How much they have left?
Yeah.
To go for a 7-month season because you're hoping to get to October. I don't know I don't know what would be in there. Phenomenal.
We got time for maybe one more question. Here's our one of our big Giants fans here. Says, Ned, this is a tough one here. Which free agents do you pursue for the Giants? Basically, okay, need shortstop, left-handed, right-handed pitching, 2 starting pitchers, backup catcher, middle of order bat.
Well, George, that shouldn't take more than a couple of days to get all that signed off, especially if Danny's involved. Danny could probably get that done by the time we get to Monday, which is coming up.
Give me a shot at it. Just give me a shot at it.
I think a very important player for them would be Sasaki. I'm not saying it does what Barry Bonds did for them back in 92, 93, but it would be such a uplifting moment for the organization to sign a young player that's one of the best in a market that can do what the Dodgers did in Asia. Giants can do the same thing. That the idea of him joining this franchise and building around him and Webb, even though Danny wants to trade him, you know, that suddenly, you know what, I think you'd have a spark, and you'd have a chance to change what Buster's trying to change. I think he's what he turns out to be, hard to say. Okay, he's young, hasn't thrown a ton of innings, both good and a little bit limited. But the idea that he would pick San Francisco and the Giants, and that they could start building their team, whatever, if they're in the middle lane, as we showed a couple days ago, or the right lane or the left lane, you know, it allows them to do whatever they're going to do because he's not 30 years old.
Right.
So when you sign free agents too, you got to keep this in mind, that as you project your team out, as I just mentioned, you know, what Scott, I'm sure has done and is doing, as you project your team out, will the players that you're signing for 5, 6, 7 years, when you get to year 6 and 7, are they going to be the same player you're signing now? Are they in that stage of their career? And I think that's a key thing. With this young pitcher, you know, you think, barring health, barring an arm injury or something, that, yeah, he's going to probably be better in year 3, 4, 5 than he's going to be in year 1. But there's not many free agents you can say that about. One other thing about free agents here, then I'll let you guys go, is, and I did it, and everybody does it, I would be far more cautious as I have hindsight, the value of hindsight, is most free agents, and think about this, most free agents are signed for what they've done, not for what they're going to do. And you're going to double a salary, triple a salary for, in almost every case, less production than you've seen. Think about that.
Wow.
How many? Well, it's, you know, you disagree with the premise. You know, I mean, it's really, you're signing on what they've done. How many free agents sign a long-term deal and the next year or two are their best years? Maybe Shohei, right? But there's not many that even sustain what they do. And then I'll give the Dodgers credit for this too. Mookie Betts has sustained it. Big contract, sustained it. Freddie Freeman, sustained it. Ohtani blew it out of the water. So, but as you look at the whole landscape from 30,000 feet, most of the time a free agent player doesn't replicate what drove the team to do the deal.
Right. So what you're really saying, what the Dodgers have figured out, that's probably as important than what they even do on the field is their character.
Amen. Amen. And they are, as we talked about it on the last show, they are a destination. So they have the pick of basically anybody. They can afford everybody. They can figure out who everybody is and how they're going to fit, how they're going to adjust, how they're going to play, and how hungry they're going to be. To your earlier question about can you repeat? What does it take to repeat? All right, gentlemen.
Well, thank you, Ned. It's great having you on, and we'll do this 2 weeks from tonight. Good for you? Is that good on your calendar?
Yeah, unless Soto signs with the Dodgers in the next couple of minutes, we'll be right back.
We'll be right back on. We're ready for it if and when he does. All right, Ned. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you, Ned. Great chatting with you, Ned.
Take care, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care. The great Ned Colletti joined us tonight. And as always, a special treat, guys. Los, I say this, the Giants can get, and fans can get as mad as they, you know what? I just realized we didn't have the banner up there all night. I don't know what happened to it. Hold on here. Let me put that up there. Must have fallen off. The Giants can get mad and the fans can get mad at the Dodgers for doing this. Don't get mad at the Dodgers. Get mad at the Giants ownership, because the Giants ownership is a very wealthy group as well with their real estate development. Okay. And the A's moving to Sacramento, and eventually it looks like they'll move out of Sacramento to Vegas in a few years. The Giants will own all of Northern California. They'll have the San Jose Giants, their lower A ball club right there in the Bay Area. Then they'll have the Sacramento River Cats, and they will own from Sacramento to down basically to Fresno. And from Fresno up to the Oregon border is pretty much, you grow up there, you're going to most likely be a Giants fan. But the Giants could start losing a lot of fans that are, in that San Joaquin Valley area to Dodgers if they don't. The Giants used to be in Fresno, and they used to have, I think they used to have a team in Modesto area, if I'm not mistaken. I know the A's did, but look, they've got to step up. And there's ways to spend money and do it wisely. Los, we've talked about this. Build with the pitching, right?
Yep.
I mean, and build from within. You got to draft well and develop well.
And look, just as important, Dan, as we're talking about, we're going to get this player, we're going to get this position. But Ned alluded to it last week, I think, on the show. He said the Dodgers are far and away the destination of everybody that they want to go there. And I think what the Giants have to do is just as important as establish their team winning. They have to reestablish their culture and have San Francisco as a place that people want to go. And that's been lost the last few years, obviously, with things going on with the city, with the way Farhan ran the team. Buster's got to reestablish the Giants as, yes, the San Francisco Giants are an iconic organization, but right now they're not thought of that way. So that does go a long way for players wanting to sign, because, if you have the choice of going someplace here and here, they're both going to pay you money. One, you're going to win. You're going to be in the spotlight. You're going to be in the playoffs. And another one, you're going to be lucky to finish 500. they're going to pick the winning organization every single time. So the Giants have a lot of work to do to reestablish that. And, it's going to take a little bit of time. But we're excited to see what happens.
Yeah. And, the Japanese player, Robert Boyd, thank you. Robert sent me something. Remember the guy in the World Baseball Classic, Murakami? He was the everyday player, right? Murakami, the big power hitter, wasn't he?
Yeah, I believe so.
He's announced this will be his last year. See, if the Giants, what Ned was saying here, Bub Rad, is that why he believes that Sasaki would be a great signing for the Giants is because he's young, he's from Japan. It would open up maybe that Japanese market for the Giants, and you could start building around Sasaki. It would be a big lift to a franchise in great need of a big lift. And, hopefully the Giants can figure a way to go out and get a Sasaki. And then maybe you could next year get a Murakami, who's I'm not sure how old Murakami is. Anybody in the chat know how old Murakami is? I can look him up here. Let me do that, and then we'll get out of here. Oh wait, here somebody. Murakami is a third baseman. Well, there you go.
Good luck. Yeah, we just locked up Chapman for 6 years, unless they move off of him.
George Curry says they should sign Adames, sign Burns, Tanner Scott, trade for Josh Naylor. He could be re-signed for an extension, sign Sasaki to an internet. Yeah, that would be awesome.
I'd rather sign Fried and Burns rather than Adames. I'm just a little leery on Adames. Again, having that big year and a contract year. He's had some down years before that. And again, he's not going to hit here like he did in Milwaukee in that hitter's ballpark. So I'd rather go all in, like me and Dan have been talking about. Just go all in pitching. Can you imagine if they signed Sasaki, got Fried and Burns and Webb? That's nasty. That's nasty. That can go head to head with the Dodgers. Don't have their lineup, but that pitching can match up with the Dodgers.
So Murakami is only 24 years old. He's going to be a hot free agent next year. I think would he be the international, or has he played long enough? I don't know how the rules work. He's been playing in Japan since he was 18. This past year, he hit 33 homers. In 22, he hit 56 home runs. He's 24. He's hitting 272. We know there's some great pitchers over there in Japan, so I'm not at all worried about a guy like him coming over here. I'm just looking at his fielding. Is he a third baseman? Somebody said he was a third baseman. Wouldn't that be something? I wanted to come to the Giants, but you blocked me. You have a third baseman already. Boy.
I'm not gonna lie. So far, giving Chapman 6 years and re-signing Yaz is not exactly a great start. But let's see what happens at the winter meetings. Hopefully, they can do more. A lot.
Yeah, yeah, guys. And we'll have to do a little Niner recap later on, maybe in the next day or two. It was ugly tonight, but nothing I didn't expect. I thought when they came out, I first saw the first drive, I thought, man, maybe they came to play. Maybe there's a possibility, but you put them at a 2% chance of winning. I put them at 1.9. So I win because I didn't go over. Price is right. I won 1.9% chance. I probably should have said 0. I really did feel – I was on Kruger's show last week, and he asked what the score would be. I said 38-14. They both looked at me like I was kind of like a little crazy. But, it is what it is. So, guys, we are going to get out of here. We'll be back tomorrow night, Monday night. We're going to talk. I can't remember what our subject was. We've got something. I think we're going to talk about the Giants need. We're going to bring it back about selling the team, guys. We're going to talk about the need for the Giants to ownership, to sell the team. We're going to hit that topic a little bit. We'll have some more stuff. Look for my videos out tomorrow. I've got one on Brock Purdy. I recorded yesterday. So it was before today's game. So, and I mentioned that in the video, but just a little tease. It's about Brock Purdy and the 49ers paying him $60 million. I give my opinions on it. I give some documentation on it. You're not going to want to miss that video. So comment on that when it comes out. Don't forget Chapman Law Group. We brought them up at the beginning. They're in the description of this video as well, and we will give them another shout out. 415-613-9483. Give Chapman Law Group a call for any legal matters you have, and let them know NorCal Sports Network sent you. Any other final things we can wrap up here? Chat. Yeah. Be checking us out. We got NorCal Sports Network. It's called NorCal Sports Network because it's a sports network, okay? It's not a Giants channel. It's not a 49ers channel. It's not a Warriors channel. It's not a Sacramento Kings or a Oakland A's, Sacramento A's, but we're going to cover all of it, okay? So we got the Sharks. This is a full network. And, guys, we're going to get some Shark talk on here more and more. So we're looking for a Shark expert, so to speak. I like hockey, but I will just be very real with you. I understand the game. I understand how it works. I can see the talent. It's just not one of the sports I can cover as much as I do the others. And so somebody who really, really knows the Sharks much better could be on NorCal Sports Network talking about the Sharks. Okay. Contact Los and Dan. Yes, you can contact Los and I. Let me put that banner up here, and I will show you a little bit what Los and I do. Here we go. Kind of what I talked about a little bit with the Dodgers deferring money. I can help you grow your money. I can help you do it safely, and I can help you make that money. All right. Call Los, or he'll help you save money. Okay. He'll help you with a lower house payment. He'll help you get into a house. He'll help you refinance the house you're in. Call him at 925-250-4894. Flex funding. Why is it called flex funding? Because they're pretty flexible. They can do a lot of things for you, and you can give me a call if you need any insurance needs, investing. How about, hey, maybe it's just a life insurance policy. You need a life insurance policy? Give me a call. 888-960-7233. I also do living trust. So I can do that for you as well because I work with people. And if you're in California, get you over to Chapman Law Group to do one for you. So, guys, thanks for watching NorCal Sports Network. You're a very, very important part of the show and what we do. Let me check the final comments. George Curry, Brock may be worth $40 million. Stay tuned to my video. Check out my video. Were you listening to me record that, George? I said 40. Maybe I might go 45 tops, but there's no way I'm paying Brock 50 plus million or anything close to it. Check out my video coming out on Brock Purdy. It'll be out sometime tomorrow. And we've got a lot of videos. Guys, make comments and hit likes on our video. They really help us grow the channel. Los, any final words? You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I always love chatting with Ned. It's just always a great high IQ conversation, not just
Yeah.
on baseball, but just on, hockey and sports in general and life in general. It's just very refreshing. So always enjoy these conversations with him. So thank him once again for coming on and having a great show.
Oh, last thing, guys, by the way, we had Casey Schmidt on a few weeks ago, and he'll be here in Arizona, I think coming week. I'm hoping to get a delivery of brand new Major League baseballs from Rawlings. Should be in sometime this week. Los and I will head down to Papago, Giants training facilities. We'll meet up with Casey and some of the other ball players, and we'll get some baseballs signed, and we'll start giving those away in, this month. All right. And you're not going to want to miss tomorrow night's show. We've got 2 tickets that we'll be giving away. San Francisco Giants, Cincinnati Reds. I believe it's the Wednesday. I believe it's the 10th of April, but don't quote me on it. April. It's right around there. It's a Wednesday afternoon game. We've got 2 Giants tickets to give away tomorrow night as we pass over the 3,500 subscriber base. Hopefully we'll get there tomorrow night. If we don't, we'll do it Tuesday or Wednesday night. We're at 3,471, guys. 3,471 subs. So please give this a like and subscribe if you have not already done so. It really does help us grow. So do that for us. And let me find the band here. There we go. All right, guys. We'll be discussing the need for the San Francisco Giants owners to sell the team, and we've got a couple of more ideas for that. And we'll get into talking free agency baseball as well while we're doing it. So join the show tomorrow night. Everybody have a great Monday. I guess it's back to work for all of us tomorrow, right? Doggone it.
Back to work.
It was nice having 4 days off.
It was nice, real nice.
Yes, very nice. Let me hit the other screen here, and we'll say our little goodbye. Here it is. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and we will see you again tomorrow night.